Hi, this is Marina from Dance Star Astrology, bringing you the full moon in Gemini, which will take place on the 14th of December. And this is a really busy moon because it's going to be heavily aspected, and you'll see from the chart, it looks like a box, doesn't it? An envelope. But I also thought, quite appropriately, it did look like a present, a Christmas present too. But what it's actually called is the Mystic Rectangle, and I'll talk about that later on. So just a list of the aspects. It's going to be opposite Saturn, sextile Uranus and Ceres, and also trine Jupiter as well. The fixed stars that it's on, this is a very stellar area of the sky as well, is Capella, which is in Aruga, which is the chariot. Capella's in one of the little goatees sitting on his knee, the charioteer. The other one is Fact, which sounds a bit rude, but it's one of the stars in the dove, Columba. So peace, hopefully peace for Christmas, and Mintaka in Orion's belt as well. So very, very, very stellar, very fitting for Christmas season. So the moon in Gemini Decan 3, the imagination's very active here, and those touched by this moon, and when I say touched by this moon, I mean people who will have this, will have the degree of 22 Gemini activated in their charts in some way. So, for example, if you have the sun at 22 Gemini, then this moon will be very strong for you, and so you will be touched. So yes, those touched by this moon will have a great sense of what is popular and what is to become big. At the same time, the moon is not particularly strong by dignity here, so it has to cope with many different strategies. The full moon can bring out two-faced and untrustworthy behavior. It does not intentionally set out to be duplicitous, it just simply ebbs and flows with the public's moods. So the theme here in Gemini 3 will be that of dancing around different subjects and moods. This position, though, is very psychic, as it is so well attuned to the collective consciousness and is quick to adapt to the changes in the atmosphere. So people such as astrologers, market traders, and body workers will work well with this kind of energy. There is a dark twin potential, of course, because the trickster archetype is alive and well here too. This full moon position could put the spotlight on swindlers, liars, and thieves. But these same people are impish and cheeky, so they can get away with any impropriety. Wits are sharp and can help those touched by this moon get out of any scrapes. The biggest problem at this time is having too much choice. It's like being at a buffet with a tiny plate and knowing that you will offend all the cooks of the food that you didn't pick. Whatever choice you make will upset someone. At this full moon, you might constantly feel like you're being pulled in two directions. Dividing your life very rigidly for the time being could be the solution, and wearing the right hat for the right job. So now let's look at these three fixed stars that are being activated. The first one, Capella, has a mercurial influence already and is one of the Bohemian stars. And these are extra potent stars that were used in medieval magic and for making talismans. Now, each of these stars has a precious stone or herb associated with it. And in Capella's case, it's sapphire and thyme. Robson says of Capella that it gives honour, wealth, eminence, renown, a public position of trust and eminent friends, and makes its natives careful, timorous, inquisitive, very fond of knowledge, and particularly of novelties. It's like a double Mercury influence here, isn't it? Because obviously Mercury also rules Gemini, which is where this moon is. The second star is Fact. Oh dear. In the dove, it's spelt with a P, PH, by the way. The bringer of good news. So it's another fortunate star. This one brings kindness and a gentle nature, which can soothe out all the other more risque sides to this decan. The dove is timid, but underneath has a powerful spirit. It has artistic talents and a great sense of rhythm and timing. Both these stars are considered very fortunate. This is really sweet because it's obviously going to be the moon that is going over the Christmas holidays, and peace and goodwill to all men, isn't it? We need some of that. We need a lot of that. Okay. Mintaka is the third one, and it's actually the third star in Orion's belt. It's one of the most recognizable sights in the night sky, and these three stars are said to mirror the positions of the pyramids of Giza as well. Mintaka is the first of the three to rise over the horizon in the northern hemisphere and portends good fortune too. Personally, the stars are quite hard to work with, as we have seen in the moon in Gemini Decan 3, which I read earlier. But in the collective, these stars seem to behave themselves and bring more eminence. Maybe much depends on the aggregate of the world's soul at the current time. So now let's look at this mystic rectangle aspect pattern. Well, the Hubers, who were a couple of German astrologers, they called this pattern the righteous rectangle. So how this works is the harmonious aspects on the outside conceal the tension brewing by the oppositions. The dynamic proactive energies are the moon opposite Saturn, which is serious driving ambition, and Jupiter opposite Uranus. I can never say that without it sounding rude. Sorry. Uranus, which is controversial thunderbolt awakener. The motivations of the rectangle is clear. It wants to spread harmony and acquire security. But this is not easy in a world full of contradictions and polar energies. Again, this is the Gemini theme that's coming up quite strongly in all sorts of other elements of this full moon. So this is what the Hubers say about the mystic rectangle. The internal pressure caused by the oppositions could lead to a breakdown. If the internal tension is not diffused, substance is lost. Sometimes the bottled up pressure leads to mental confusion, and there is conversion, a transformation from Saul to Paul. That leads to a wholesale abandonment of what was important before, thus enabling a spiritual rebirth. Wow. So the aspects that we have during this full moon, I'll just go through these kind of quite quickly, I think, because you can read about them more fully on the website. We've got moon opposite Saturn, which is serious about getting ahead and activates driving ambition. We will have high standards and maybe be a tad too critical, but it's always about striving towards bettering oneself. It means that family will be very important as well, and we will work our hardest while sacrificing selfish desires. Well, that's good for Christmas, isn't it, really? Responsibilities and duty are taken earnestly. Then we have moon sextile Uranus, which is an abundance of radical and innovative energy. The full moon will bring to fruition personal freedom, revolution, and electric genius. And the more outlandish those touched by this full moon behave, the more the public will seem to lap it up. Also, we have moon sextile Ceres, which is one of the asteroids, if you're not so familiar with Ceres. Now, this one is very sweet for Christmas as well. It brings together the two mother archetypes in a way that's incredibly fertile and nurturing. There's a budding urgency and slight desperation about it, though, as well. So you must guard against being too cloying, sentimental and smothering. But then, Christmas is pretty sentimental and smothering when you're stuffed, when you're stuck in a house with a turkey and too many relatives to fit on the sofa. It's such a Christmassy aspect as well, because those touched by this moon will need very much to be needed. So they will make themselves indispensable by throwing money and lavishing affection to those who they love. So, spoiling people with presents. Then there's another nice Christmassy aspect, which is Moon set star Jupiter. This benefits writers of song or word. In particular, it's good for publishing, really. The imagination is expansive and pioneering, inspired by overseas or inner travel. And this full moon can bring success by chance, by being at the right place at the right time. There is a dark side, as always, to Jupiter too. And so the combination of his licentiousness and lunar bad habits could spill over into drug or sexual abuse, either given or received. Well, let's have less of the sexual abuse, please. We've had enough of that, I think. But, it's indulgence as well. So Christmas is about that, isn't it? Really, Christmas dinner. So the summary, the full moon in Gemini is so multifaceted and has so many aspects. But a moon in Gemini can juggle all these elements with ease. The mystic rectangle contains the Persephone stellium too, which could bring justice for those who have received abuse from paedophiles or just gaslighting from narcissists. So sorry that this theme of paedophilia just seems to be coming up over and over again. And part of the reason is because of that stellium. It's that stellium of Eris, Ceres, and Uranus, because Eris and Ceres together are Persephone. Bill Clinton, Epstein, his friend, convicted paedophile Epstein, and the Lolita Express came out when it was exact. And also there was a release of a book called Filthy Rich as well. And this full moon also happens to fall on Donald Trump's sun as well. He has a sun at 22 Gemini. So all the world's eyes are on the US in the run-up to Trump's inauguration. Generally, though, this mystical rectangle just looks like a nice present, with the hope that the contents do not disappoint. In our personal lives, we will probably start to see whether a relationship, a friend, a new job, or contract is more than just fancy wrapping over the next 2 weeks. Okay, that brings me to the end of this lunation forecast. I'm going to be doing these every 2 weeks now. The next one will be the new moon on the 29th of December. So please subscribe so you get the updates and like this video and all that jazz. And just have a wonderful, wonderful Yuletide and winter solstice. All the best. Bye-bye.